So, Honkai Star Rail devs gave a very pleasant surprise by releasing a developer diary on their future plans, addressing many concerns that players have voiced. There's a couple of things, but we're not going to go through all of them in this video. What I'm going to do, I'm going to separate them into two videos instead. So for the first part, we must talk about the more important one, which is about them breaking their own standard practice of not buffing characters ever, unless there's a riot, like Zhongli. This is something that people have been complaining about since the enemy's bloated HP have become more apparent in the past few months. So here's the full message from the developers regarding the power creep. Forest is a year-long journey, and this story and puzzle-solving optimization are just the beginning. The Express crew will continue to optimize content. We're excited to bring everyone bigger and better journey experiences. To name some examples, we'll be adding a richer combat gameplay and challenge goals to the game. In addition, issues close to the Trailblazers' hearts, including difficulty deploying older characters on the battlefield and the strengthening of these older characters, are already on the schedule. Stay tuned for future content updates, Trailblazers. Trailblazer feedback has always been extremely important to the Express crew. Thank you for your ongoing support. See you again in the next developer radio update. First, let's give appreciation to developers for actually taking their time in considering what we want. They can just ignore this, but the fact they want to address it, that means they want their game to be better, right? Hopefully, this will be a step towards many more positive changes in the future for other Hoyoverse games as well. So the fact that they have acknowledged there's some problems regarding power creep, and currently they're addressing on how they should go about it. From our side as a consumer, let's try to give some ideas on how they can go about in strengthening all the older characters. I have a couple of ideas that I want to talk about, which are the following. First one, and also the easiest way to do this, just slap a higher multiplayer on all characters, and as I've said, probably the easiest thing to do from technical standpoint. I'm not a game developer here, but I reckon in terms of workload, probably this is the best, as it only involves directly coding the characters and maybe some interaction with the enemies. They can decide to do this periodically or do it all at once. I did see someone in X said that changing character modifier directly without further input from the players maybe can cause some legal issues. So if you know more about it, do let everyone know in the comment section so we can clear up that whether this is a possibility in the first place or not. But for me, honestly, this is not how the character should be buffed because players are not really involved in it. The second way that I can think of on how they could buff the characters is through story quests. Like, they can add more companions or continuous stories that involve these characters, and in the story they will have to go through some kind of power up. I personally like this better because it shows the character grow stronger both from story and gameplay side, but the trade-off is that this will be a more gradual process rather than an immediate fix that many players want. Through this, characters will have higher multiplier in the kits, and maybe even some additional effects on what they can do, directly modifying some of their traces notes, like their passive, or their talent, or their skills, or their ultimate, and so on and so on. For example, maybe Blade, when using his enhanced basic attack, now will generate skill points, so that we won't have any skill points economy problem when he is being run with fast forwarders like Bronya or Sparkle, while also bringing a healer. And of course, all of his multiplier for ultimate, basic attack, and so on also needs to be buffed. So yeah, this is a more satisfying way to buff a character because it really ties to the actual canon event. But waiting for this canon events to happen might take a while because they need to create a decent story at the same time. For the third way, if not through a big canon story event, perhaps some kind of side quest like how it was for increasing world equilibrium. First you need to own the characters and build them up fully, and then we will have to go through some kind of challenges that involves the characters, and if you succeed, your characters will be stronger. Honestly, I don't mind this method either since it is similar to FGO's strengthening quest, and we have to work in order for our characters to become stronger. So there's some direct player input by going through these challenges. If not through this kind of quest, maybe I was thinking something similar to ZZZ Hangout event, where you message them and you go through some kind of affinity thing, and once you have a maximum affinity with the characters, they will be stronger. But I still prefer just doing some work equilibrium stuff. What is being buffed will be exactly like point 2, it's just how you get the buff is different. This also allows the developers to spread out the buff a little bit without being tied up by story. Perhaps this way they can buff characters by the order of power levels on those who need it the most, instead of waiting for an important story to happen. Because characters from Belobog might not show up at any time soon, story-wise, and they are the ones that need the most buff, in my opinion. So the last way I can think of is that they will have additional nodes available for them to unlock additional passives and talents, therefore expanding their kit further. So basically, when the update is on, you will be able to see additional traces available to be unlocked in their trace menu. In order to do that, you still need to spend materials, your credits, and so on and so on. Or maybe you need to fight specific boss in order to get a specific material to strengthening them. But if the developers team don't want to mess with the number of available traces nodes, what they can do is allowing their major and minor traces to be leveled up. With each level will grant them additional effects on their kits. For example, let's get to Blady again, since I think he is one of the characters that needs a buff the most at the moment. His second major trace, Never Ending Deaths, says, if Blade hits a weakness broken enemy after using Force of Swords, he will restore HP equal to 5% of his max HP plus 100. Now, on top of that, we can add something like, and also recover 1 skill points. After a hit is done, blade damage will increase by 3%, stacking up to 10 stacks for the rest of the battle. For the older characters, we have seen what they are capable of story-wise, and also we have seen their growth. So for Blade, this makes him more like a character that grows stronger as the fight goes. It kinda shows how his Mara struck symptoms grow worse, but his battle prowess goes higher. I kinda like this idea too, because you're not directly changing their combat kits, but more just addressing their passive. I don't know if just by upgrading minor and major traces are enough to satisfy the players though. So, you have heard my ideas, but let me give you my honest thoughts in this overall situation. It is great that they are making older characters stronger, but I think buffing characters do not solve the fundamental problems for the developers. Power creep will occur again eventually, and they only making themselves do extra work to have to buff every other characters again the moment the gaps between characters become noticeable in the future updates. Maybe 1 year or 2 years from now, when you see another enemy's HP getting bloated up again. So instead, I really think they should solve the roots of problem in their game design. They should keep their character design principle in check, setting the right floors and ceilings for characters. Also, they should stop making universal characters like universal supports like Runmei, Robin, or Aventurine that literally just replace the other characters in most general situation, unless you want to optimize your team. Making more characters that shines in different situations, such as making more characters that takes time to get stronger in battle, which is kinda what I'm hoping Blade to be when he gets buff. And then they also need to keep the enemy HP relatively the same, but focusing on making the boss have gimmicks instead. So people are encouraged to try different approaches and using the characters that can tackle the challenge most effectively, instead of trying to get a team that can deal damage as much as possible. A good example for this kind of boss is Sam, where Sam basically shuts down healers and also preventing the break team damage from popping off too early. And then this is something that I've been really hoping for a long time. They should stop adding more challenges with time limit. It takes away enjoyment from players that cannot pass the DPS check, and they always encourage to just play teams that can deal damage as much as possible while the possibility for something like a stall team can never be considered to deal with the endgame challenges outside Simulated Universe. And lastly, make the challenges actually involves planning in combat on top of having the right teams. So meaning that players need to make more decisions during battle, so that way there's more judgment and skills involved with the actual core combat mechanics. So I've talked long enough. What about you guys? How would you like to see the characters buff? Do you like any of the method that I mentioned above? Or do you have your own ideas? Let everyone know in the comment section below. This is KKaceh. Thank you so much for listening. Do leave a like and subscribe to hear more about Honkai Star Rail discussion videos that I make weekly. In the next video, we're going to talk about what the developers are planning on addressing the more recent drama, which is the other part of the developer's diary. So you can look forward to that as well. Until the next video, stay sharp gamers.